The big weather story, tracking the tropics, what is happening with Hurricane Erin, and that's what a lot of people are interested in knowing, the latest update. This is as of 8 p.m. It is still a Category 3 storm with winds of 125 miles per hour. It's moving west-northwest at around 13 miles an hour. And it's around 310 miles northwest of San Juan, Puerto Rico. Now, Category 3 storm. If you remember, just yesterday, it was a Category 5. What happened is it had an eye wall replacement cycle. So that kind of let it lose its strength just a little bit. We'll start to see it regain its strength once again. And within the next 24 hours or so, we should be seeing the storm go back to Category 4 status. Right now, it is still in the middle of that eye wall replacement. So it's a little less strong. I don't want to take too much from this storm because it's going to continue to push really northwest, and that's when we're going to start to see it regain its strength once again. This is a look at it. It is still a very decently structured storm, still that Category 3, really close to Turks and Caicos, the DR. I just told you it was around 310 miles, really northwest of San Juan. And it's definitely dumping a lot of rainfall in those places. Still not expected to make a direct hit, but there's going to be some impacts from this storm. Not here in, across the southeast. However, we have to keep our eye on it, especially as it gets closer to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. So let's time it all out for you. Here's a look at it. I told you once it finishes that eye wall replacement cycle, that's when we can start to see it regain strength and turn into a Category 4 storm once again. Right now, the latest forecast track says maybe around 2 p.m. on Monday, we can see those winds get back up to that 145 mile an hour range, and that will make it a Category 4 storm. Now, as it continues to get closer, as close as it's going to get to the United States, which is really still far off, it could be a Category 3 storm and it'll lose its strength just a little bit. And even as it pushes past, going towards DC, still a Category 2, and then it will just kind of weaken as it goes off into the sea, and even still missing Canada as it continues to push northwest. It's still expected to continue with the same track as of right now. Here's what you need to know. This really has not changed in the last 24 hours. Heavy rainfall, obviously, for Puerto Rico right now and the Virgin Islands. The tropical storm conditions for Turks and Caicos. You saw exactly where the storm is located. Turks and Caicos is definitely getting some tropical storm force winds and some rainfall as well. Life-threatening rip currents next week. That will be for the East Coast. Like I said, as it gets closer to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, that's when we could start to see some impacts getting closer to the United States. Here's the thing. Those winds are going to be so high, especially with it being a Category 3 to Category 4 storm. You have to make sure that you are paying very close attention. I know a lot of people are out of vacation mode. Kids are back in school. But if you have any travel plans set up, or if you know anyone who's traveling, or even on a cruise in the next 48 hours or so, give them a heads up. Make sure that you're checking in with the forecast and staying up to date. And make sure that you keep an eye on the flags that are out there if you're going surfing or you know anyone who's going surfing, because if those rip currents are so high, you do not want to be out on that water at all. Here's a look at our spaghetti model plots. This is what we've been keeping an eye on as well. Projected tracking. As of right now, all of the tracking keeps it away from the United States. There's only one rogue model that's kind of pulling it in closer, but still, when we see all of these models in agreement, it's a lot more comfortable for us to say, this is the projected route of that storm. And you saw, even when we were going through hour by hour with seeing how it could regain its strength and continue to push northward and then kind of lose its strength just a little bit, it still had it going away from the United States as well as in Canada. Here's a closer look. There are some tropical storm warnings as of right now, and that is going to just continue to push closer and closer. I'm not sure what they're going to do with Miami and how they're going to handle that situation because of the winds and the rain, and especially right at the Florida Panhandle. We might see some maybe watches in place, tropical storm watches at the very most, but I'm thinking that it's still going to be too far away from the United States. But it's something that we'll keep our eye on. If you remember last night, San Juan had that tropical storm warning for the Atlantic area, not actually for the island there. We have been continuing to watch the current wind gusts. As of right now, It is a less strong storm than what we were tracking last night. However, we're still going to continue to watch the tropical force winds as this storm pushes northward. Here's the deal. Once it gets closer to the United States, the winds coming off of the storms are definitely going to have some impacts on the Carolinas, down into Georgia, and maybe even past Florida. Once again, not going to be taking direct hit from this storm, but the East Coast could be seeing some higher winds, maybe even pulling in some moisture, maybe some showers and thunderstorms as well. As of right now, though, it's still so far off into the water, it's not something that we're too concerned about, but it's something that all meteorologists are going to continue to watch because we don't want it to get too close. That's when we can start to see some of those winds really making some really big impacts, especially if it's throwing off some rain and maybe even some storms as well. So right now, staying far off from the coast from the United States, but we're going to keep our eye on it, especially with that dangerous rip current and those tides as well. Here's something that we want to continue to watch as well too. What could happen behind it? This is the peak hurricane season. Yesterday, I was telling you that there's a 10% chance of something that could develop into the Atlantic Ocean. Since then, 24 hours ago, that has depleted. That's a 0% chance as of right now between the next 48 hours as well as the next 7 days. However, there is a new disturbance we have our eye on right now, and it could develop 40% chance to develop in the next 7 days. That's a storm that we'll have to keep our eye on for sure, especially with it being a 40% chance. I've been keeping my eye on things, and you can kind of see on models something trying to get developed and formed right now in the Atlantic. But right now, 7 days away, 40% chance of any kind of hurricane tropical storm development. That's still way too far away to confirm absolutely. That's just like normal weather. When we bring you a 7-day forecast, really the first 3 days, that's when we can feel more confident of saying this is going to be your forecast. We're nailing it down. For hurricanes, 7 days out, we could see a lot of changes in the next 7 days. So it's definitely something that we'll have our eye on and we will bring you the latest on. But as far as Hurricane Erin is concerned, as of right now, it is a Category 3 storm. But once it finishes that eyewall replacement cycle, we'll start to see that storm regain strength once again and become a Category 4 storm. And then we'll start to see it completely lose its strength as it continues to push northward. For now, I'm meteorologist Danielle Moss.